Well, when I was a very little girl, 3.5, my mum came to teach here, and it was a secondary modern school. And I used to come here an awful lot as a little girl, because in those days my grandma lived at the other side of the village and we couldn't get up there very easily after I'd been in school. So I spent a lot of time. I went to Scott Lane School, which is now, I think, the Owls Nursery, is it?
Yeah, I think it's recently changed its name, hasn't it? But yeah.
Oh, I think it used to be the Owls Nursery, and I went there as a little girl. And so my mum was here, I was down there, and we used to walk up and come here and wait till she'd finished doing what she was doing here. And she'd lots and lots and lots of extracurricular things going on, because she used to run the Grammar Group for her area, and she also used to do music because she was the only pianist in the school. She was the only one that could play the piano. There was no musical aids like there are now in your computers and your record players and everything. There were none of that. So she did all that for us. And also, I remember coming and running round the hall because I thought it was absolutely great, a great big place to run round. And if she was here for quite some time, she used to put the ropes out for us to play on. And put the forms down from the wall bars. Oh, yeah. And then we could play on slides and everything like that. So from being very tiny, I've always been associated with his school. And then later on, I used to help out when she did what was called the livestock group. I don't know if anybody else has told you about that.
No, I've not heard about that.
Have you not? No, because when this school was opened, it was very, very posh because it was new and it was fine, and they used to call it the New Luke School. And they used to have lots of visitors coming from different areas round to come and actually watch what was going on, because there was lots of different things going on all the time. You know, it wasn't just maths, arithmetic and writing. There was art, there was a science lab, there was a woodwork area, there was a domestic science area. Don't call it domestic science now, do you? Food tech, that's it, good girl. So they didn't have them in those days, so it was wonderful for people to come round. And I remember Mum telling me that she'd have visitors round that day to come and have a look round because it was something really, really new. Because that was in 1948, I would think, right, that's when she came here.
Probably around the same time then of the black and white videos that we've been watching.
Possibly.
So we've watched, because I think there was beekeeping on where the beekeeping, wasn't there, on one of the videos?
That's right, yes, you used to have behind down there they had a great big garden, a great big allotment garden, and a greenhouse. They grew all their own stuff, and they used to give it to they had a big dinner canteen over here, and any surplus that they didn't use, like in the domestic science, they used to take it over there and let them make it into school dinners.
Such a good idea.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
So nothing was wasted at all. And like I say, Mum was the pianist, and she was very involved with making the concerts. They had lots of concerts, Christmas concert, then they had end of term concert, and they had drama festivals. Do you know what drama festivals are? No. Well, every group used to do a play, and they had a competition to see who was the best play. Who was the best play, and they were called drama festivals. And they had 3 different houses. There was Chisnall, there was Norris, and there was Bradshaw. What groups do you have? Now, do you have different groups?
Yes.
Do you?
We have Remington, Douglas.
Yeah.
And Yarrow.
Yeah, well, that was Bradshaw, Chisnall and Norris in those days. And the drama festival were using those children, so they had a competition to see who was the best. And I remember coming down, helping Mum, turning the pages over when she was playing the music, if it was music, and actually prompting as well on the stage. There was a big stage at the end of your hall at one time as well. So
I've seen some pictures of that, haven't we?
Yeah, you'd do with a nice stage, wouldn't you?
I know.
and then a lot. Then they had clubs in the evenings as well, like you probably do as well. They used to have a science club, and they used to have a woodworking club where people came to do woodworking. There's all kinds of things going on, and it was an asset to the village because it was only a small village really. There's only one street running through, and it was the main road as well, going all the way up to Scotland.
Yeah.
Yeah, at one time, I don't know if Mum or Dad said that there was more pubs than there were houses in Blackrod at one time. And going back to it being a new school, they got people from everywhere coming because it was so new, everybody wanted to come. So they had people coming from New Springs, from West Horton, Adlington.
Right.
Yeah, they came from all over.
Gosh.
Yeah, because people wanted to improve their education, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So how long did your mum
Well,
work?
she worked here from I think it was 1948. She was here as senior mistress, and then you call them assistant heads now, don't you?
Yeah.
And then she left just before I did. I left when I was teaching here. Let me see, 68, I think. 69 maybe she left.
Right.
She retired then, so
Yeah.
she was here most of her working career,
Wow.
really. Yeah, so she taught children and grandchildren, even sometimes great-grandchildren.
Oh, gosh. Mrs. Bird doesn't think she'll get to
Yeah, I wasn't that bad.
No.
Yeah, and going back to the groups they used to have the gardening group that you were talking about. They have the allotments there, and they have the science group, and then they have what we call the livestock group, and my mum was in charge of it. And in this far playground here, there's a little hut,
All right.
and a big pen, and we used to have chickens there, and she had chickens, and she had rabbits, and she used to breed the rabbits with the skins.
Well, I was going to say,
Yeah.
what did it show us on the video from
Did
the
it
National
show?
Archives?
Did it?
Go on.
A person, I think it was a boy, held a rabbit's by its
Did.
foot and then he karate chopped it.
Oh, did they? Oh, I didn't see that one.
Really
Oh,
funny.
that wouldn't be very nice. But I remember coming down and
We struggled with that concept of
Yeah.
killing the...
Yeah,
killing
they
the-
like gory things. So,
Yeah.
So I was quite involved with that because she was in charge of the livestock group. So I used to come and help at the weekends because there was a rota where all the children came and helped to clean. Well, you've got to clean rabbits out, and you've got to feed them, haven't you? And we had Angora rabbits, there were chinchilla rabbits, there was Dutch, and there were English. So there's quite a variety of them. Yeah. And yes, love it.
What's the difference between each rabbit?
What's the difference? Well,
Probably
some
a
of them are a little bit
size
bigger,
thing.
and usually it's the colour of the fur. And Angora is very, very furry, lots of long fur. And what they used to, and another good thing about it as well, not just breeding them for eating and for the fur, they used to make their pelts, the pelts of the skins of the rabbits, into mittens and little booties on the feet, and sometimes even little waistcoats.
Oh.
Yeah, so that went to the sewing
I
department.
was going to say, that'd be a different DT lesson, wouldn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah,
You'd have to skin the rabbit.
and they
make
used to
something.
brush the Angora rabbit, as I said, very long white fur, and they used to spin it. There was a spinning wheel, and they used to spin the wool and knit it and make baby clothes out of it.
I think we saw that as well, didn't
Did
we?
you see that as well?
See?
Yeah. So, and at the end of the year there was a show at Hay. You know where Hay is?
Oh,
over?
yeah.
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 It was called Hay Show. It was an agricultural show, and the school had a big table, a big exhibition of everything that the school did.
Right.
And they used to take the mittens and the little shoes and anything they'd made in school there, and they sold it.
Oh, wow. So it's a bit like our summer fair, in
Yeah, a
way,
bit
isn't
like
it?
the summer fair, but on a smaller scale.
Yeah.
And they used to, people used to come, and then it was promoting the school, really.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that was the highlight of the year in lots of places, because the woodwork department would make stuff, and the science people took experiments and showed people what they were doing. So I remember that as very, very vividly.
But I think that answers one of our questions as
Does
well.
it?
Because on the National Archives footage, they were jarring jam.
Were they?
And we had a conversation about what maybe they were using that jam for. So maybe it would have been sold.
It would
at
so
Hayes
they'd
Show.
grow it. They'd grow it in the. They'd grow the raspberries and the blackcurrants and the blackberries in the gardens, and then they'd jam it in the in the what do you say, domestic science?
Yes.
Yeah, they'd do it there
Yeah.
in the food tech. They'd grow it and then sell it. Yeah.
A bit like we do our mini enterprise, isn't it? Where we think about what we want to sell, and we make it or build it, or and then we sell it, don't we?
Yeah.
It's very similar, yeah.
Yeah, they used to make cakes as well, especially for the show.
Fantastic.
And in the art and craft department, it used to do weaving, like I said, with the rabbit fur. But they also made proper little woven mats as well, and they sold that. They had little weaving looms. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was good, and they used to do basket work. Used to make baskets.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and trays.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was quite enterprising. It was very, very new in those days, because
Very practical and hands-on, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was good. Yeah, and of course the hens laid eggs, so you always had fresh eggs, and they sent those to the yeah. Yeah, I remember one year we had chickens in our house because there was nobody to look after them. They were stuck in our spare room. Little chickens running about. Walking up in the morning with chickens. Yeah, having chickens in the spare room.
I don't think Mr. Burt would like chicken.
I don't think she would. No, I don't think you would you?
No.
Yeah. And then, of course, besides that, they had youth club here as well.
Right.
They had a youth club. Yeah.
Is that
In the hall, in the main hall, they have the youth club. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know, does anyone here go to youth club now?
Yeah.
Is it still?
Yeah,
is it in the little
centre.
in the centre there? Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So everything was kind of used. You know, there's nothing wasted, because it was just after the war when all this was happening. Really, it was in the 50s, and then later on, after I was little and everything like that, I went to grammar school. I didn't come to this school, my sister did, and she enjoyed being here. But of course, Mum was a teacher, and that wasn't very good sometimes.
Yeah.
And then later on, I taught here as well. I was a teacher here too.
So were you
in between when the secondary school closed?
Yeah.
There was a gap, and we'd only got the school holidays to get the school ready for junior children. Well, there was a lot of problems because it was opened at very, very short notice. I think we only got the 6 weeks of the school holidays to sort things out. My mum became the head then because she was nearly ready for retiring, and I was working at Scott Lane School as a teacher, not as a pupil. And I was asked, I had an interview, and I was asked to come here as well. So there's only 4 teachers. There's Mum, there's me, there's Miss Dootson, and I can't remember, I've got it written down there what her name was. But there's only 4 teachers, and the school opened very quickly, like I say, with 6 weeks, which to get everything tried to be sorted. Everything wasn't, and we'd also got workmen in, knocking the stage out, knocking holes in walls up in the top class. Is it all open plan upstairs?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's when that was when that was done. So it was all, things weren't finished off properly. We hadn't got proper paper to draw on or anything like that. So we went to Cook and Nuttall's, which was the paper mill. Down Station Road there, and they sent us great big reams of paper to help us. The books didn't arrive when they should have done, so we were using the old secondary modern books, some of them that had been left and had been burnt.
Right.
We had to use those in the interim until we got something. We didn't have any computers, and to make lessons we had to use what's it called? Carbon paper. You know what carbon paper is? No. To make a lesson, we'd very few textbooks as well. We'd no library books.
Right.
We'd no reading scheme. Because it hadn't come.
Yeah, it
just hadn't arrived. So we were stuck really with lots and lots of things. But we improvised. We hadn't got desks like this. There were desks with lids that opened and shut with inkwells in. We didn't use the inkwells. We're all right. We were on biros by that time. The children in the infants, which was down that end of the school, that end of the far end. That was in the old domestic science room, the old food, the old sinks were still there, which we used to wash with. We'd no easels, so everything had to be done on the tables. There were lots of big high tables because they were used for secondary children, so our little children couldn't reach. So it was very much an improvisation, you know, you have to improvise an awful lot.
How many children did you have?
I think I had 29 in my class. I'm not sure how many there were in the other classes. I had a year 3-4 class.
Right.
With one infants class and one teacher down there. And like I said, the tables were too high for them. So we had to go around the other schools in the village and see if we could catch some tables for the little ones.
Right.
And chairs. So we managed, but then of course, because we'd nothing at all, no equipment of much description, we went into the PE store and got the mats and made a home corner, but with no dolls, with nothing for the home corner. So when the school actually opened, we immediately got a PTA together, and we got lots of very good mum helpers that came in and helped us and provided stuff for the home corner, like dressing up clothes and books, like I say, with no library books, nothing. And then the general library sent us a pile of books in, thank goodness. But other than that, we had to ask people, could they bring a book in to read? Because the reading scheme hadn't come. And the only reading scheme that was in the whole lot we could do throughout the school was the Ladybird reading scheme,
right.
Which is something that is not on anymore.
No.
And then, of course, the children had come from 3 different schools in the village, and they all had been using different reading schemes.
Yeah.
So it's a bit iffy.
What was the reason for such a quick turnaround?
I don't know. I never found out.
No.
Maybe there'd been a meeting, and they said, "Oh, we'll open it now." Never thinking to discuss, what the problems would be. I mean, the sinks. They weren't low enough for the little ones. The toilets were too high for the little ones. So we got to have bigger children taking little children to the toilet.
So they could lift them up.
So they could lift them up. And then some very kind PTA member made us some little blocks so they could stand on, so they could stand up to use the sinks and stand on to use the toilets. Wow. So it was a little bit, it was hard, but we had a lot of good laughs. The PTA was brilliant. They got together and got lots of money, then we could buy stuff, Yeah. And then another little problem, because we hadn't got all the books, the exercise books, or the writing books, the lines were too small for children. Because when you in a secondary school, the lines are only little. Well, we need big lines for.
Yes, we still have similar, don't we? The children in Key Stage 1, they have books with bigger lines.
Wider lines.
Squares.
I should have said wider lines.
Yeah, and we have slightly narrower, don't we? In Key Stage 2.
Yeah. So we're using some of those books up as well.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. So it was a bit, but we got by. It helped. What do you want to say?
Sorry, he's asking to go to the toilet.
Yeah. What do you want to say?
One at a time. All right. We'll have to wait one at a time.
Right. So let's have a see if I've got anything else on my little list. They were lovely children though when they all. But then of course, when they came to a big school, they'd been to small schools. It was very scary, and some of them were only 4, the little ones, you know. And it was really, really frightening for them. They didn't have like you have, like induction days where you could come in and look round the school to see what it was like. They were just brought and left.
Yeah.
There were quite a few that cried for quite a few weeks. And like I said, the PTA came in, so we had mum helpers come in. Right from about 3 weeks in, we got people organised into a rota, and they came and helped us. Yeah. And then, of course, there's also another little problem. One of the schools, Scott Lane actually it was, they did the ITA reading scheme. Did you know of that
I've not
one?
heard of
Well, it's
that
horrible.
one.
You read the top of the letters.
All
And
right.
it was a shape of those, and so I got that lot as well. So that was a bit. It was very hard work at one time because they'd use one way of learning to read, and the other schools had different reading schemes as well. I mean,
so did Scott Lane close down?
No.
At that point, no.
No.
So it was still open.
None of the schools closed down at that stage. They was all still open, but there were so many children at them that we took like the overspill really. I can't quite remember how whether the parents asked could they actually bring their children to this school, or whether they were told to bring the children to this. I think it was a matter of parental choice, really.
Right, okay.
Because all the schools in the village were old. They were built in the 1800s, so they're old and, you know, not very nice in lots of... Yeah. So
now, we've seen some pictures of Scott Lane School, haven't we?
You?
We had a lady come in, Janet Smith.
Oh, Janet, yes, I know Janet.
So she brought us some pictures in.
Did she?
Of Scott Lane, because her mum was a teacher.
Yeah, she taught here. Grandma taught
that was it.
Mrs. Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she brought us some pictures in showing us like Scott Lane, and so we've got to Peter Green as well, haven't we? So we've seen a lot of the pictures of like the other schools.
The other schools as well.
Interesting.
So it's quite traumatic, but we got by. Let's see, have a look at my comb bag. I think I've gone through all my lists now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we managed, and we made a good team. I think all of us together. You know, without the PTA, I don't think we'd have managed. Quite honestly.
No.
You know, yeah.